It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielsen, Matt Cassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
Oh.
There we go. How's that?
There we go.
There we go.
There we go.
That was weird. I wonder how that kicked out. Usually the music and I are on the same track. That doesn't make any sense. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Two Guys and a Goalie. I guess officially in the offseason now as the Stanley Cup gets dished out to the Colorado Avalanche last night. And it's all brought to you, obviously, by our great partners over at CoolBet. Gager's got that nice white CoolBet T-shirt on today. I like it.
Oh, yeah.
Almost can see your nipples there, Gager. That's great. That's a nice looking.
Go a little
nice
lower. You don't want that.
Yeah, okay, that's right. Yeah, you keep those nips below the line.
Oh, gonna have a wet T-shirt contest.
By the way, speaking of Joaquin Gage and Joaquin Gage's body.
I
had a little run-in this weekend with a couple people.
Okay.
One would be a gentleman by actually an old camp teammate of mine. I spent a couple camps with him. An old Portland Winterhawk by the name of Joey Teterenko. And also spent a little bit of time with a gentleman by the name of Brent Thurston. I was out in Vancouver. And they told me a story about Joaquin. And I'm still trying to decide if it's appropriate or not to share on air. But apparently,
Cass, if you don't think it's appropriate, it probably isn't. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So apparently in this story, there's more to Gager's pregame rituals than we've been led to believe. Something to do with a wristwatch, and
oh, Jesus. Oh, yeah.
It's not my story, Gager. It's not my story. I don't think we need to go there. Maybe we can talk about it off air. But I dug up some new dirt on Joaquin by accident.
Yeah, it's too bad the roast is over.
The roast is over, so I can't pull that one out. That would have been a perfect one for the roast, though. Actually, would have been really funny. I would have loved to have given it to one of those other guys, like any one of them, to run with the little stories that they were telling me. But pretty funny. Sorry, I can't share it on air. It's a little bit.
It's bad when, hey, like
yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have to learn that story a little bit later on, I guess, and maybe we adjust it a little bit for the podcast. It was weird. What was it? Sunday morning, Cass? Sunday morning.
Yeah.
I'm walking, check in, get through security at Vancouver Airport, walking over to Gate C, and it wasn't super busy. And I see this big guy coming the other way, and I took a second look at it. I was like, holy shit, it's Cass. Like, what are the odds that we bump into each other at the Vancouver airport on a Sunday morning? That was wild.
That was wild. And you know what? I don't know if you noticed, but I was sweating like crazy. So I had just spent I love Vancouver. I don't like the Vancouver airport. I do not understand why all the good food is outside the security. Like all the good food's outside the security. So I was just like running around. All I wanted was like a good breakfast. And it's like Carl's Jr. was closed. The other place had a massive lineup. Starbucks lineup was like 50 people long.
That's always
huge. You realize how long the security lineup is here? Like I got to get through security so I don't miss my flight. And then you leave me no breakfast options. Like I'm running around. All I want to do is go to the white spot. That's all I want to do. Just take me to the white spot. And I can't go. Gager, I know you love Vancouver, but I don't like the Vancouver airport.
No, it's been years since I've been there. But I've been there through some of the renovations. It looks nice. It's nice, but
not if you want a breakfast.
Not if you want to eat something. I would suggest getting something outside the airport, Cass. There's lots of places.
It's early in the morning. Nothing's open.
I guess. Yeah. Richmond's
and then it's like, then I have to
screwed.
eat. And if I have like a water or something, because I need a water, I can't carry that through security. It's like, give me after security options, Vancouver. Come on.
You're going to hate when I tell you this, but right after I saw you down in the Seagate there, there's this great restaurant. I sat down, had an eggs and bacon breakfast, a big glass of milk, and I didn't even have to wait. I walked right in. Usually it's pretty busy, but I walked right in, sat down. I ordered at 7:10, paid my tab by 7:35, was on the plane by 7:45. It was Glorious
garbage.
morning
I
for
should've
me,
went
Cass.
with you.
Sorry,
You
bud.
know what? We should have done breakfast together.
Yeah.
But
if I would have known you were looking, I would have said, "Come on down to my spot."
I walked like all the way down that way, and then I hit a point where I'm just like, screw this. Like, I'm not going any farther. I'm sweating enough, carrying my bags around. Like, I'm just gonna go back to the one restaurant with too big a lineup and go there, which is what I did. And it was fine.
I felt so left out too when you showed me
I
that
know.
picture.
We should have never taken that picture. That was very mean.
Awful. I was like sitting in my chair Sunday morning, all depressed by myself, thinking you guys were at Vancouver Airport crushing milks. I had to go get myself a little thing of milk just to feel like I still belong.
Yeah, my milk tweet didn't go over very well. I mean, it's breakfast. I always have a glass of milk with breakfast.
Who drinks milk like that anymore?
What do you mean? In a glass? What am I supposed to do? Suck it from the teeth? Like,
no,
how else do you drink milk?
At all? You're a grown up. You drink milk. The only
you
time
guys
I
don't
have
drink
milk?
milk?
Is if I'll have it if I'm having like a cookie. And my wife makes fun of me because I'll put a little ice in it because I want it super cold. Then I'll have it. But that's just like an every once in a while with a cookie.
So you guys don't drink any milk, like a glass of milk?
No.
Really?
No.
Huh.
No,
okay. I thought everybody just kind of did. I'm not kidding, guys. Like every morning I have a big ass glass of milk. And when I was in high school, my dad, because I had a job at Save On at the time for 2 years in high school, he made me start buying my own milk for the house because I was drinking too much. He's like, nope, if you're going to drink that much milk, you buy your own jug. I was like, okay, fine. I'll have my own jug. Take that, you ass. It's a huge milk debate.
Have you guys ever seen the comedian Nate Bargatze?
No.
So he's on Netflix. Highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. It's easy, clean comic. So like no swearing, nothing crass. Really, really good. He's on Netflix, the stand-ups, and then they gave him. He's got a couple specials out on there now. He actually just was in Edmonton. My wife and I went, but he's got a really big bit on milk. So it just made me think of it. Yeah, so worth checking out. And I'm not going to spoil a joke at all, so I'm not going to get into it. But it's a good bit. Has to do with milk, relevant to our conversation today. And actually, they got a pretty funny podcast. If you're looking for another comedy podcast called the Nate Land Podcast, it's just really dumb. So kind of like us.
I'm going to need to do a follow-up on my show tomorrow on this adults drinking milk thing. Like I knew people were chirping me. I thought it was because I just had an airport milk. I didn't know in general guys don't drink milk anymore. That's
like if you the homo milk? Are you on the homo milk?
No, I'm on the 1% at home. Although my wife drinks skim and she's always like, you should have skim too. So the odd time at dinner I'll have skim, but when nobody's looking, I drink the 1%. But I grew up until, I'm not kidding, boys, till like grade 12 on 2% milk.
Well, I get homogenized because I still got kids. It's the best.
Yeah, my kids, they're a little bit old now, so we just go 2% for them. But
yeah, like because we were still on like the homogenized for my youngest,
for the little one.
Wife, like she bought a thing at 2%, like starting to cut down, and I was just like, what is this? Like, this isn't my cereal doesn't taste as good. Yeah, what is this cereal for ants?
Yeah, God. All right, well, the discussion continues, but let's get into the Stanley Cup final last night. Cass, I think it was you that texted the group last night and kind of laid it out here. Tampa just ran out of gas. Like right after you sent that, I was watching it, and that was the thought that was in my mind. And I looked down at my phone, and I was like, okay, yeah, so it's not just me. Tampa looks done.
Yeah, they were done. Like the second the third period started, like I thought maybe they come out with a push, but just the way Colorado played, I was just like, there's no way. I was like, there's no way. Even if Tampa finds a way to score here, like they're done. Like Colorado is in the lock it in mode, make no mistakes, put all kinds of pressure on, and don't give up anything. It was just they were toast. Tampa was, and not for lack of effort, not for lack of trying. Colorado was just a better team.
Yeah, it was a clinic. I forget which broadcaster, they said it perfectly, that the Avs out lightning the Lightning with their defensive structure, and you saw how they closed out series, especially against the Rangers. Just having the puck in the offensive zone and playing just as hard on the defensive side of the puck as the offensive side, and just not even allowing the Lightning to breathe at all. Like they were still really aggressively forechecking. Like you look to the end of the game, and I know there's only a few sets, but you got Makar forechecking and stuff, right? So Yeah, they ran out of gas. Just a clinic by the Colorado Avalanche at the end there to lock it down, and good for them. Good for them. That was awesome to see. It's always great to see great players win Stanley Cups.
Cale Makar has now brought up a a new analytics category that all the fancy statisticians.
You can call them whatever you want, Cass, because you always call them out.
what they're going to use, the people that live and die by this, not as a post evaluation tool, but as a prediction tool, will be percentage forecheck by a defenseman.
That's actually not bad. And to just call it a Makar, it sounds like one of those other names.
Yeah, it's
right. Corsi, Fenwick, Makar. What's his Makar? His Makar's off the charts.
It's Makar. It's the percentage of times that the defenseman is below the hash marks in the offensive zone, and then one of the third. He is at least the third player back in his own zone on the ensuing play. That's the Makar.
That worked out well.
Right there.
Yeah, the Colorado Avalanche Makar their way to a title.
Their way to a title.
So when you look at Makar, I mean, unanimous Conn Smythe, only the third defenseman behind Bobby Orr and Nick Lidstrom to win the Norris and the Conn Smythe in the same season. Gager, like, were we within like the next 2 or 3 years here? Is Makar a Hart Trophy finalist? Does he get 95 or 100 points? Like, I don't want to say this is peak Makar because he's 23 years old, for goodness sake. So what else can this guy possibly do? Like, what are we watching here with Cale Makar?
It's I was thinking about the exact same thing, Dusty. And you mentioned his age.
Yeah.
The confidence that this kid's going to have going through the next few years. He is going to be so dominant from back there, and he's so hard to defend against. I could see him winning multiple Norrises, to tell you the truth. If this team stays together, it'll be ridiculous, right? But they were comparing him to Orr and stuff. The one player that I think that he emulates a lot, and it's too bad because he was stuck in a defensive structure, but Scott Niedermayer, very similar with the way they would walk the line and wrist the puck in, and just the physical play of both, and just knowing that they could be back. I know Scott was one of I was fortunate enough to play with him a little bit. Nicest guy, one of the greatest hockey players ever to live. He's just unbelievable, but getting caught in a defensive structure. But with the great thing about Makar, he's got carte blanche to go nuts, really. And man, I just think that we're gonna just see him develop into just such a dominating player, to the point where I think that conversation of best player in the league with he's going to be up there with McDavid.
You know what? He's not going to win a Hart Trophy. Do you know why?
Because he doesn't play in Toronto.
Matthews doesn't play in Toronto. Here's the thing. This is why I'll tell you why he's not going to win one. I'm not saying he shouldn't win one. I'm not saying he shouldn't. I don't think he's capable of having a season where he would or should. Roman Josi this season, where did he finish in the Hart Trophy voting? And fourth or fifth. Yeah. The guy should have won it clean. He was my number one by far. Kaprizov number 2, Shesterkin number 3, McDavid. Because
you're viewing it as a straight up most valuable player to his team, like
straight up most valuable player to his team, which is what the Hart Trophy is supposed to be. But all the wonderful people, and there are wonderful people, so I guess I sound facetious when I say that, but there's lots of wonderful people in media. I just don't understand some of them and where they get the voting, but they're not going to vote for it. Like, think of what he would have to do in order for them to vote him in as a Hart Trophy over top of some of the other players, whether it's in Toronto or elsewhere. Like, he just, to me, if
with MacKinnon there and Rantanen there, and like if Josi can't win it with Duchesne and those guys, then how's he going to do it?
Josi didn't have anybody. He was the only reason that team was a playoff team. Yeah. The only reason that team was a playoff team was Roman Josi. You want to talk about most valuable players to your team? He was the only reason that team was any good at all. And so that's I can't see, like, Colorado's not, they're still going to be good, even though they might not be as good as they were this year for the next couple of years, they're still going to be really good. So I can't see it happening. Guys aren't going to vote for him. Girls aren't going to vote for him. The media folk just will prioritize other things, which is too bad because he could deserve to win it.
I think that's an interesting conversation on Makar specifically because of the style that he plays. And with the way that the NHL has trended today, it's like he's landed in the perfect era for himself. Because, Gage, you brought up Scott Niedermayer, and obviously, growing up in Cranbrook, I always kind of semi-idolized Scott Niedermayer for what he did with New Jersey. And you mentioned, he was in a defensive system and one of the most defensive times in the game. And like Scott Niedermayer in his prime, I'm just looking at it, 97, 98, he had 57 points in 81 games. And then it was 46, 38, 35, 33, 39, 54 in his last year in New Jersey. Then he went to Anaheim and put up 63, had 69 in 70 points, or in 79 games, ended up winning the Conn Smythe in 2007, I believe, and then finished his career with 59 and 48 in 08-09, almost 20 years after it started, because it was, starting to be a different type of game. He was in a different place. I just can't believe when you watch Scott Niedermayer play the game, that guy was at 0.5 points per game in New Jersey, because it's ridiculous. He's just over 700 points in 1,200 games, and I always wanted to watch him play. I thought he was one of the most dangerous offensive defensemen ever.
Oh, he was disgusting. I think I've told you that story of when he came back from New Jersey from junior, and I played against him the first game. It wasn't fair that we were playing against Kamloops. He had the puck the entire game. Like, even I think they were showing the Memorial Cup goal, and I remember that goal because I went down to Seattle to watch. And he's still a young guy, like he's 18 years old, but he gets the puck and he has the composure to look up at the score clock to see how much time's left, and then to hit Zach Boyer on a breakaway pass. The way he's, and in the NHL was the exact same. It's I guarantee if he was in a different system, Dusty, his point totals would have been completely different. But I mean, just look at his resume. It's one of the greatest hockey resumes that you can see. And to me, Niedermayer's in the top 10 of best defensemen, and Cale Makar's well on his way to quite possibly being considered with the best ever. The way
I was just going to ask you where he fits into your top 10 or top 5.
That's a really good question. Yeah, he'd be in my top 10. I think he'd be in my top 10 for sure. Cassie, be in your top 10?
Oh, without question, he'd be in my top 10.
Yeah.
Now he'd be encroaching, I think, on number 5. I think he'd be encroaching on number 5. He'd be in the mix.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of looking here, I just went and Googled top defenseman. Anyway, this is points. You got Ray Bourque, 1579, Coffey, McInnes, Housley, Murphy, Lidstrom, Pavin. Obviously, Bobby Orr's a little bit further down the list because of injuries. Brian Leach, Larry Robinson, Chris Chelios. Are we comfortable putting Niedermayer up in that sort of? I know the numbers maybe not back it up, but we're comfortable with him. And I think I would take Scott Niedermayer. If somebody said, hey, you can have either of these two guys, you have to choose between Phil Housley and Scott Niedermayer, or Al MacInnis or Scott Niedermayer. I mean, I'm probably taking Scott Niedermayer in those situations. Maybe I'm too young to remember the dominance of those other guys, but
no, I'm taking him all day. I'm just trying to think, how many of those years was Niedermayer with Lemaire in New Jersey?
Well, the first
good chunk of
8 years of his career. It was, and they were told, I remember, they were saying, they were holding him back, right? He wasn't allowed to do a lot of stuff.
Jacques Lemaire hockey. He wasn't. I mean, that's why do you think Lemaire turned Brent Burns into a forward?
Yeah.
I mean, you want to go to pre-Cale Makar, one of the other guys recently, Erik Karlsson's certainly one of them, and Brent Burns is another one. If we look back the last 15, 20 years, guys that stepped into that super potent, high offensive capacity defensive roles, and Jacques Lemaire just about stopped Brent Burns from being that. So yeah, I mean, it's not surprising to me at all that Niedermayer's numbers are there, and I would have him in my top 10 all day.
And Scott does. Oh, sorry, Cass. Scott does give credit to Lemaire for teaching him he needed to learn that part of the game. But I mean, Jared Bednar, and they were talking about, Woodcroft, Bednar, these young coaches that are a little bit more, I don't know, how do you say, just willing to let the young skilled players develop and not hold them back and be able to use that skill. Right. Like that's, I like that with you wouldn't see a lot of, I think, older coaches allow Cale Makar to do some of the things that he does. But I think the team's so good he's allowed to. But man, you see him below behind the net, and he's the first guy back all the time. Just it's amazing. It's amazing, this kid. Unreal.
He played Niedermayer, just to wrap up this, and we'll move to some of these other. Niedermayer played the final 5 years of his career in Anaheim. And his 3 highest point totals in his career came in his final 5 years when he was in Anaheim. So can you imagine him on some of these offensive teams in the 90s, man? He would have been, my God.
It would have been disgusting.
Yeah. Put him with Mario and Yarmir and just let him go. Like, would have been insane. He was yeah, he was good, man. Really good. All right.
Can you imagine well, I mean, sorry.
No, go ahead, Cass. I want to finish it. Can you imagine what?
I'm daydreaming. I'm just daydreaming. Like, can you imagine having like him and a McDavid? I mean, it's kind of like Makar and MacKinnon. It's like where you have two different, but MacKinnon's a different style than McDavid, but just like having that pure offense ability from your back end, like in that way.
Let's tie this into MacKinnon because he's a UFA at the end of next year. He's on another sweetheart deal, 1 more year, $6.9 million or whatever it is. I think I was chatting with Wyshynski on my show today, and he kind of laid it out and said, if Colorado wants to make a run at this, maybe MacKinnon doesn't ask for $12.5 or $13 million. He asks for 10 or something. Save a couple mil and use it somewhere else. Gager, what do you think this guy gets? What do you think that contract looks like? Because you can't obviously let him go anywhere. He could get that deal done this summer if you want to buy up the rest of these UFA years. Do you think it's a deal where he gets that? Probably more than McDavid could be what he could get because of the time and the fact that he's a UFA. But do you think he settles for less to continue to try to build maybe not a dynasty in Colorado? That's tough to do, but certainly put together a few good runs.
That's a good question. I think it'll take a while to set in, but he's got that Stanley Cup, right? Like he's won the big one. I think if you got into a situation where if they were to have lost to the Bolts this time around and maybe go back and, maybe if they didn't win that cup, I could see him possibly taking less, depending the structure of the Avalanche, because they've got a lot of decisions to make over the next little while to keep kind of that, see who's coming back and who they can keep and make another run at it. But I think after the next year, I can see him cashing in on a big deal, Dusty. If he hadn't have won one, I think maybe he would settle for a little bit because he said he'd take less to stay there. But now that he's won one, I think possibly time to cash in.
Cass, no matter what, you're looking for that big deal. Like, I mean, I said $10 million would be what he settled for, which would still be like an $80 million deal. But I mean, he could be a $100 million guy
at least. 12.
Yeah,
he's probably getting 12. Yeah,
so that's $96 million on an 8-year deal. Like,
you got your cup win already, so you have one. Would you want another? Sure, but yeah, you're taking the cash.
He already said he's going to get fat as what did he say? He's going to get fat as fuck or whatever. Did he say that last night? So yeah, he's going to add a little corner weight. Maybe you won't be able to move.
And he wants Sidney Crosby to be hammered at his cup party because he's been hammered at a few of his. So yeah, no, we'll see. Let's talk Darcy Kuemper for a second because he wins the Stanley Cup with a .902. Even the goalie last night looked kind of weird. He's sort of sideways there. Gager, you are the goalie of two guys and a goalie. Like, if you're Colorado, are you? I don't know if you're desperate to keep him around. Like, is it a hot market for Darcy Kuemper coming off a Stanley Cup championship in which I'd say he was okay?
Well, first of all, I'd like to see what Grubauer is doing and banging his head against the wall right now because he would have been a Stanley Cup champion right now, easily. because
900 save percentage.
Yeah, it just what a terrible decision that was. I had to get that off my chest. But no, I think out of a lot of the free agent goalies, you can pick a guy that went all the way, went up against the best goalie on the planet and won. There were some iffy things, but he did make the one save that he had to make last night against Kucherov. And let's look. If I'm Kuemper, I'm going, look, I'll come back to this team. This team provides a style of play that they don't need to have world-class, like their goalie as their star player. They just need solid, consistent goaltending. That decor, they're missing Girard too, right? And the way that these guys can play defense, they're not giving up a lot. And he's a really, I'm not saying I don't think even Kemper's an average. I think he's a really good goalie. The only thing I question is a little bit of the injury bug. That's the only thing that bothers me. But man, he made the saves that he had to against it was a little bit of a depleted Bolts team. But yeah, I liked his play.
Cass, where did you come out on Kuemper in this thing? Were you confident in him pretty much the entire time when he was in there, or what?
I wasn't not confident. I mean, he's a decent goalie. He's a decent goalie. Francouz is a decent goalie. And I mean, compared to the rest of the world, they're amazing. They're in the NHL, but it's not like he was one of the top 5. You probably wouldn't even have him in the top 10 goalies in the league. So is he going to cash in this offseason? I mean, it's certainly not going to hurt having that on your resume. I just backed the team to the Stanley Cup championship.
Yeah.
And so if you have a good team,
you can win with me.
Solid. Yeah,
if you have a good team, yeah.
Here I am. So, I mean, good for Darcy. Good for Kemps.
Was he in Minnesota when you were in Minnesota?
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah.
I remember baby Kemps coming into the minors. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, little Kemps. He's a goalie.
Who were the two guys they had there? It was Kuemper and who else? Who else did you guys have? Wasn't there two guys the same?
With Matt, young guys?
Well, I thought there was two guys close to.
I mean,
who was the other guy, Cass?
We had Matt Hackett for a little bit.
Oh, Dubnyk was there with him too, wasn't he? Didn't Dubnyk come over?
Doobie was there. Yeah, Doobie was there.
Yeah, Dubnyk and Kuemper together for a few years.
Yeah, Doobie would have been there most of the time Kemps was in Minnesota. Would have been
3. There. Yeah, I'm going back right now and I'm seeing 3 years. They were there 3 years together, and then Josh Harding might have been the one I was thinking about. That 1 year it was Backstrom, Kuemper, Harding, Brizgalov. Everybody played at least 12 games. Everybody was there that year.
There's a bunch of guys. That would have been the year I got traded, I think. Or no, that would have been the year before.
Like he would kind of guess that he would be the link that was weakest going up against the Lightning, I think, and Tampa Bay just couldn't break through and maybe have him question himself a little bit, right? There was never a time that he didn't look confident in net. I know they had the one blowout, but after that he was pretty solid, man, with everything. That was good.
All right, one more that I want to get to, and then obviously we'll have another episode later this week. And with the draft and free agency coming up, there's going to be no shortage of things to discuss, tons of Oilers offseason stuff to get to. But we're not very often in a position where we can say, man, I wonder how the Oilers would have looked against a Stanley Cup team that lost. But this is the year. I mean, they lost to Colorado, and then Colorado goes on and beats Tampa in 6. So, Gager, let me ask you this, man. How do you think the Oilers would have fared against the Tampa Bay Lightning if they were the Western Conference champions going up against the champs from the East? How do you think that series goes? How do you think that plays out? What do you think they're capable of?
God, it's so hard to say, Dusty, because I think the Avalanche there's a little bit of luck involved, and I say luck with the injury bug. And I think for the most part, the Avalanche had the ability for their star players to stay relatively healthy throughout the whole run. As we saw with Edmonton, there were guys playing on one leg and just banged up. And I think at the end, Tampa, if I were to play the Tampa team against the Oilers team, they were both so injured, right? It would be awesome to see what would happen if the Oilers were at full capacity against the Avalanche, because I I still think the Avs probably win that series, but I don't think it's 4-out, right? I think there's some wins for the Oilers in there. Yeah, I think the Edmonton could possibly do good against the Tampa in that series. I just the way that they generate offense, I mean, and the speed, I think, was the biggest thing for the Bolts to handle. They couldn't handle the Avalanche's speed, and there were times, definitely with the Oilers and Colorado series, that they were able to match that. So it's encouraging for the Oilers moving forward. But again, there's a little bit of luck involved too, because you got to stay healthy through that. That's the biggest thing it's to go far. It's almost not the best team. It's the team that can stay the healthiest. And
as far as the big guys go, right? You lose some depth guys along the way. You got other depth guys who can step in, but you lose some bigger pieces, or your number one defenseman's banged up, or one of your top guys is banged up. That changes a lot, right? It's nothing against Burakovsky, but it's not Rantanen or MacKinnon, right? It's a little bit different there.
Look, that series is if a healthy point makes a big difference in that series, right?
Cass, what do you think? Oilers, Lightning. I had people today texting in being like, Dusty, would have been a sweep. Lightning would have swept them. And I said, I think the Oilers would have won one for sure, and I think they could have pushed them to 6.
Healthy team versus healthy team. Both teams healthy. They win a couple.
Yeah.
It goes 5 or 6. I would still probably pick Tampa. I probably would have said Tampa in 6.
Yeah,
I would have said Tampa in 6, and I probably would have went with the big difference being goaltending, and that Vasilevsky is going to make those extra saves. He's probably going to win you a game you shouldn't win. That would have been my take on it. So yeah, it would have been a fun series. It would have been a really offensive series too.
Would have been a fun series too.
At times it would have been like Oilers, the Oilers offense versus the Tampa's willingness to block shots and sacrifice and do whatever it takes to keep the puck out of their net. So it would have been entertaining.
All right, boys. So that's going to do it for another episode of Two Guys and a Goalie. We've got a lot of Oilers off-season discussion. We'll start to dive into that on Thursday, and then free agency's a couple of weeks away here. So there's lots to get to. Draft next week as well. So just around the corner, and which means there's going to be some trades that we're going to have to discuss, which will be really awesome as well. I don't know what you guys are doing for lunch, but I'm going to go have a sandwich and a big glass of milk just for you guys today. I don't believe that you guys just don't have a glass of milk every once in a while. Do you not like the taste, or are you just like you're too mature for it now?
Yeah, I'm not 12.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's like
it's
that's
ridiculous.
Crazy.
Come on,
it's unbelievable. That's gross. It's actually gross. It's gross. That's too big a glass of milk.
Yeah, I'll take a step back. I'm not going to say it's gross. I won't say it's gross, but
somebody else did, so don't worry. God. All right. Well,
you do have the palate of a 6-year-old, though, Dusty. It's okay.
That's true. My sandwich that I'm going to have right now is just meat and cheese. So
perfect.
Yeah.
What? Obviously, white bread.
You put some
white
butter
bread
on there.
No, my wife makes me eat whole grain bread now.
Oh, really?
So, but I love when I can get my hands on a piece of white bread. God.
Oh, some Wonder Bread. Oh, yeah. Do you cut the
man.
crust off too? Does your
no?
wife cut the
I
crust?
eat the crust.
Jesus. So
he's got cheese strings. On the side.
Is it being prepared for you upstairs, you little baby? Like, is there a?
Well, she's making lunch for my daughter right now, so she makes a sandwich for her husband, right?
Holy smokes!
Yeah,
Tammy, Jesus.
Well, she's pretty awesome, I guess.
No doubt. Oh my gosh.
I'm a busy guy. All right, boys. Hey, if you've been watching, subscribe to the podcast. Search Two Guys and a Goalie on all your podcasting platforms. I'll talk to you bastards on Thursday.
Bye.